لله رب العالمين وصلى الله وسلم وبارك على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. سبحانك لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم. Just before the beginning of Ramadan, we talked about some of the things that we'll be doing as a community is seeking, as we heard, sacred knowledge, getting better in our knowledge, getting better in how do we practice our tradition. A lot of things that we do, sometimes we do it subconsciously just because that we are habitually doing them from the time that we even barely could understand what prayer was or what prayer is and what ablution is and so on and so forth. So we want to consciously do things right. So inshallah, today I want to just talk about one particular ruling of the prayer that inshallah a lot of you will benefit from. For any prayer to be valid, there are certain things that you have to complete, and they are called the fara'id, the obligatory acts of prayer. And a lot of us know them. Number one is standing, and we're going to talk about that. But it is also related to other fara'id of the prayer, which is ruku', which means bowing, and sujood, prostration. These three are important, or the integrals of the prayer. They are the arkan of the prayer. Without them, your salat will not be valid. So if someone is able to stand and they prefer to just sit on a chair and pray just because it's more convenient, then that prayer will not be valid. The prayer will not be valid. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, وَقُومُوا لِلَّهِ قَانِتِينَ. And that's where the scholars take the ruling of the obligation of standing. They didn't just come up with this ruling from thin air. It's based on principles. And the principle is that we find this in the Quran in the verse, وَقُومُوا لِلَّهِ قَانِتِينَ. And stand still in front of Allah with devotion, with concentration in a prayer. So qiyam is fard. Ruku' is also fard, and sujood is also fard. Now, some of us that we have family members, or maybe it could be one of you who are here tonight, or for those who are listening online, there are some people who are unable to do one or more of these three fara'id. One or three of these three fara'id. Now, let's take the qiyam part. Someone is not able to stand, but they can do sujood and ruku'. They can do sujood and ruku'. Or they can only do sujood and cannot do qiyam and ruku'. Meaning they can stand, they can bow down, but they have a certain disability that prevents them from prostration, from kneeling down on the ground and placing the forehead on the ground. That person is exempt from standing and making ruku'. Complete standing and complete ruku'. So for that person, it is preferred to sit on a chair because they're unable to perform sujood. They do not have to stand. They're not required to stand. They're not required to make a proper ruku'. They can sit on a chair and they will do the qiyam while sitting. And then when it comes to ruku', they will bow a little bit. They will bend their head down a little bit as an indication for ruku'. And then they will bend a little more down to the ground as far as they can go easily. And that will be counted as their sajda. Okay? So that's the exception for the person who cannot do sajda. If someone is able to do sajda, then they are required to stand. They are required to do ruku'. Now let's say someone is able to do sajda and also they can stand, but perhaps maybe they're unable to do ruku', bowing down, because they have a back issue. And because I know a thing or two about that. So they're able to stand, and also they're able to make sajda, but they're not able to do ruku'. They'll have to still stand. They have to stand. Why? Because they can do a sajda. Because the most important aspect of the prayer, it is sajda. Right? The most important aspect of the prayer It's when you go down in prostration and you're bowing down before Allah and you putting your forehead before God. That's the most important integral of the prayer. If you're able to do that, then you have to do the rest. Now, let's say someone can do ruku', can do sujood, but they cannot stand. Right? You can do ruku', you can do sajda, but you cannot stand for whatever reason. You cannot even stand just enough to say the Fatiha and the surah, which is required for your standing for your recitation while you're standing. Then you can actually sit down and do your qiyam, sitting, and you recite the surah Fatiha and your surah, or if you're behind the imam, you listen to the qira'ah. Then for ruku, you will do the actual ruku, and for sajda, you'll have to do the actual sajda. So for those who are able to stand, they're able to stand with somewhat difficulty. They're required to stand. If you're unable to stand, not even for the amount of reciting Surah Fatiha and a surah, then you are exempt from standing. So I hope that clarifies, because mashallah, we have a lot of chairs in our masjid, mashallah. In all the masajid, all around the world. And I'm seeing this, mashallah, I'm not saying that I'm very old, but I'm old enough to have seen a lot. Over the years, it has increased. Before in the masajid, you will see a few chairs. Now you see a lot. It's just because our health is declining. I'm not trying to say anything about those who are unable to, mashallah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has blessed them. And inshallah, hopefully they are getting the equal amount of reward of those people who are standing. But because we see a lot of that and we see a lot of people are sitting on the chairs, so I thought that this would be a good opportunity for us to know the rulings for the prayer. Now, all of what I've said, everything that I've said, it is all related to the important prayers. When I say important, it means the fara'id, the 5 daily fard, the wajib, witr salah, etc. Or you make up salah qada, or a sunnah mu'akkada, right? It's all related to that. As for nafli prayer, for the nafil prayer, like your tahajjud, your tahiyyat al-masjid, your 2 extra nafils that you want to pray after any salat or before any salat, after making wudu, your ishraq, any other prayer, voluntary prayer. Qiyam, standing, it is not a requirement for them. So if someone, even if they're able to stand and they prefer to sit and pray their nafil salah, they're excused for that. And inshallah, they will get the reward. However, there's a hadith about a person standing and praying gets more reward of the person sitting and praying, right? So, but at some point, the Prophet ﷺ, at some point, he used to pray his nafli voluntary prayer sitting down, right? And that was sometimes after Maghrib. After praying Maghrib and after praying the 2 sunnah, he would pray extra rakat sitting down. That's thabit from the Prophet ﷺ. So if someone wants to do that because he wants to follow that sunnah, inshallah, there's a great reward in that. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us tawfiq and give us the tawfiq to learn more and to practice our important fara'id properly.